Mr. Said Vrana is joining us today. He was born in 1975 in Sarajevo, Bosnia-Herzegovina. His basic education is in aeronautical engineering, and he was interrupted by the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina. In 1992 to 1995, which he spent as a soldier in the army of the Bosnia and Herzegovina, on several duties related to mine laying, lifting, and demolitions. He graduated on philosophy facility in Sarajevo and obtained a master's degree in international program on the University of La Sapienza of Rome. His career in the field of explosive ordnance disposal started in 1999 in the Ministry of Defense Civil Protection Sector, where he obtained duty as the Documentations and Intelligence Officer. Since 2007, he is the head of the Explosive Ordnance Disposal Department in the Federal Administration of Civil Protection. He is an IMAS Level 3 technician focused on the depleted uranium clearance and residual aircraft bomb management in urban surroundings. He has published several papers related to the residual unexploded bombs management and risk assessments. Sir, glad you can join us today, and the floor is yours to kick off our panel this morning.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sead Vrana, and I will try, on example of Sarajevo, to present the methodology of unexploded World War II bombs risk assessment based on historical research that we did during the previous years. I have to say that this research is something that was developed in parallel with the challenges that actually appeared, and it is still a live matter. So the results are updated and upgraded every day as we gather new data for this research. On this slide, you can see that there is a big difference in the intensity of bombardment and the quantities of the bombs which are dropped on the Western and Southeast Europe. And just that data makes this methodology very suitable for the similar researches in the Western Balkans area or even in the Southeast Europe. A short history of our findings. I have to say that till 2006, we noticed the rise of the incidence of the unexploded bomb findings as it coincides with the outbreak in the civil construction works, especially in the areas which we later identified as risky areas. So, besides that, we were very surprised by the relatively high percentage of the findings in the previously processed area. Like 1 year ago, we had 4 bombs found during the removal of the former factory. And right in foundations, we found 4 bombs, actually 1 stick, 25 meters, 1 each from the other. And here you can see several examples of what we've been finding during the previous years. Especially interesting example on the left-hand side, you will see the bomb actually in very narrow place between the house and the garage, in the very shallow layer of the dirt, which actually owner of the house tried to remove to make some kind of a tool shed or something like that. During our work, we identified several problems in unexploded bombs disposal. One of the things is that most of our work since the end of the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina was directed towards disposal of unexploded ordnance remained from the 19th, which are mostly mortar and artillery pieces up to 155 millimeters. So we've lost the connection with the knowledge related to the World War II aerial bombs. Some of that existed before war, but we've just lost it in the process of the post-war EOD. So also same thing was with the local authorities, because they like to be aware of the procedures when that highly powerful piece of ordnance is found. So basically, we needed to determine where the threat is and how risk can be obtained, and what the threat is. So the type of the bombs and fuses setups used during the bombardment in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And also, we needed to provide that information to the local communities, for example, to the police. So the police officer need to know how to isolate the site when the bomb is found, and also to municipal civil protection offices in order to execute evacuation of the residents and support to the disposal operation. So we commenced our inquiry first searching the technical manuals, just to learn about the type of the bombs, functions of the fuses, rendering safe procedures, and real risk assessment started with the taking insight in the previous researches on the matter. So I must say that Richard Davis' book, and actually CD-ROM, which was addition to his book, was especially useful because it saved us a lot of time in reading documents without relevant pieces of information for us. Although this part of the research was not sufficient, but it gave us a general idea where to look and how to look for the information that we need. For the detailed research, we focused on two major groups of sources. First, we called the sources from above, and actually those were the reports made by the bombardment units that were actually attacking the targets over the Bosnia and Herzegovina. And the second group of sources were the sources from below, and those were the records and the documents from the local civilian and the military authorities in Sarajevo. We started on the internet, of course, but when it got exhausted with the relevant information, we started to look for an archived document in different archives. At present, at least catalogs for the majority of archives are available online. So it makes the acquisition of the documents much easier. So here is the example of the documents we obtained. We try to keep our research of the bombardment unit sources on the level of the squadron. Eventually on the level of the wing in RAF or the group in the USAF, as the reports from the higher organizational level do not provide sufficient data. They are not detailed enough. Also, here you can see a bomb plot made by the USAF intelligence, which is a very useful document in bomb dispersion analysis. Also, newspapers and the reports from the local authorities complement the previous collected data, especially on the locations and the effect that the bombing had on the ground. So I would rather say it is data mining rather than data collecting. It's a more appropriate term, as from all sources we received, we get a lot of data that we just cannot place in the research, like, for example, durability of the shelters or aircraft technical malfunctions. Those are just not useful pieces of information. So we determined a minimum of needed data and just focused on them. By cross-referencing all data from the various sources, we initially arrange information based on the order of the attacks, and later then rearrange it for each attacked target. And we present it in different forms: first textual, then tabular, and finally in the geographic information system. And for the locations that we did not manage to obtain the aerial photos, we estimated or based the assessment upon the data from the local authorities reports, like the frequency of the mention and the quality of the mention in the reports. So this is how one narrative form of presentation of data for one attack looks like. You will see the targets, types of bombs dropped, hidden locations, and especially in the bottom the data on the findings of the unexploded bombs. Also, all of those data is put in the geographical presentation. So on this image the scale is too high, but in the GIS we can manipulate with the image and present the data with a several meters accuracy for any narrow area within the Sarajevo city limits. We can also manipulate with the parameters in this presentation, so we can get another set of results, for example, like bombing accuracy for each specific air force or each specific attack, which is something which proved very useful, and we provided some data to the classical historic researchers from the philosophic faculty in Sarajevo. The rearrangement based on attack was not sufficient for what we needed, so we had to rearrange it to describe, actually to get the basis to describe risk for every attacked location, and you can see here one location which is Ali Pashin Most Marshalling Yard, or the Sarajevo West marshalling yard. Actually, there were two targets, major strategic targets in Sarajevo. That was Sarajevo West and Sarajevo East. Sarajevo West marshalling yards and Sarajevo East railroad workshops. So this is the example of the data for the Al Pashin Most target. It's seeing this and getting on this level, we actually concluded that 2/3 of the bombs missed target area. So it means that approximately 2,000 bombs, a little bit more, ended up somewhere else. So finding that locations and that area became one new challenge in this research. Part of the answer to that we got in the local authorities documents, and but most of the required pieces of information we get through the analysis of the aerial photos, because we located the photos in the geographic information system and marked the stricken area. For the purpose of this presentation, it is done on the Google Earth, but generally this is something our GIS specialists are doing in the specialized GIS program. Here is also one very picturesque example of the US attack from the 8th of September 1944. Almost by chance, we found during the process, we found a paper on the mathematical method of calculation of the probable unexploded bomb presence according to the distribution and density of the exploded bombs or their craters, which we decided to try to apply in our research. So math and calculations were done by the colleagues on the Faculty of the Natural Sciences and the Mathematics, but we did a pretty big part of the job. First, we had to find the bomb plots with a satisfying resolution and visible craters, or the aerial images with the visible craters. Actually, documents from the United States Air Force Intelligence Service were very useful just in this part of the research. Then we had to identify the position of that aerial photo in the city plan. We did it in the GIS, and to mark all visible craters as accurately as possible. For the purpose of the presentation, here are just two layers visible in this image, but actually we have 5 different layers analyzed so far. So previous steps allowed us to determine crater distribution in the present city plan, and especially their relations to the areas where construction works are planned, just like this marked triangle in the middle of this image, because that's the actual area of interest, and related to that area, calculations are done. Above mentioned methodology of the calculation of the distribution of the unexploded bombs require that you make some kind of local indexing of the crater location. One reason is that working with the geographical coordinates, which are 14 to 16 digit numbers, might be a little bit cumbersome. And the other reason is that calculations are done in relation to the local crater distribution. So we set 100 by 100 meters grid over the crater overlay. Basically, squares which are 100 by 100 meters do not provide sufficient accuracy, so we subdivided each square to the 20 by 20 meters grid, and for each this small 20 by 20 meters area, calculation is done independently. So the final result after the math is done is that on this area we have calculated possibility of presence of 2 unexploded bombs within 5 meters accuracy, and actually 5 meters accuracy is the practical accuracy we managed to achieve in placing the aerial photo in the GIS. Instead of conclusion, small SWOT analysis. So, historical research is a really good tool and really good asset in risk prediction and assessment, especially because you do it when you have nothing else to do. So it's kind of free time activity, free time from the field activities. The other thing is weakness is that it is highly dependable on the amount of the information that you get for every specific location. So more information you get, more information of a higher quality, then your outcome is better. So it's dependable. Opportunity that you can get with this is that when you present the results to the local community authorities, you make them aware of the risk. Actually, you are giving them a proof, and that is something they have to respect and they have to obey. And you are giving them enough information to start the work on planning and then on the execution. In the case of the finding of the bomb, you give them enough time for preparation. And the threat is that you can get misled if you take incomplete and inconclusive results for final in the process. Actually, we found out that every new information contributes to the final result. So you can never allow yourself to get to consider your result final. So thank you for your attention. For every further inquiry on this subject, you can contact me on my email presented here.
Mr. Vrana, thank you very much. I think you'll have a number of questions in the panel as we get to Q&A. Ladies and gentlemen, our next